Together 3,000 companies from around the world this time. They're aiming to increase sales to one of the fastest growing consumer markets, and by the way, it's the largest in the world, China. A panel of guests today will look at the bigger picture, the meaning and the significance of the event. Do stay with us. We'll bring you more details of this event and much more. So, the venue is set for the grand opening of this year's CIIE. All exhibition booths have been set up and displays are available online. Personnel and equipment are in place at entrances to check COVID health status, and thorough inspections are being carried out at a central warehouse. On all imports of frozen goods, there's an express bus connecting Shanghai Hongqiao Transport Hub and National Convention and Exhibition Center, which is the venue of the CIIE. At its fastest, the journey takes only 6 minutes. Now, for more on the upcoming grand opening, let's cross live to our reporter Yang Chengxi in Shanghai. He is right at the venue for the opening ceremony. Hello, Chengxi. What can we expect tonight and for the next several days?
Right. We are now waiting for the opening ceremony and the keynote speech from Chinese President Xi Jinping. It is one of the most important items on the agenda of the CIIE. It is an expo that the Chinese president himself proposed. Now, in 2018, the inaugural year, he said that China stores will not be closed but will instead be opened wider. In 2019, he talked about tearing down walls instead of building them up. He was, of course, referring to the rising protectionist sentiments worldwide. In 2020, he said that countries should build trust with each other instead of casting suspicion. Now, in fact, throughout the 4-year history of the CIIE, the state of world trade have been facing a multitude of challenges, from protectionist sentiments to now the ongoing pandemic. Now, this year is also a very critical juncture. It is the 20th anniversary of China's accession into the World Trade Organization. The Chinese government sees this move as an important hallmark of the country's commitment to free trade and multilateralism. Now, this year, the CIIE will be even bigger than that of last year. Over 3,000 companies from 127 countries have joined, which is more than that of last year, and 5 more countries will be joining the National Pavilion for the first time. In fact, over 80% of global Fortune 500 companies who had participated last year have now returned. Now, these exhibitors will be talking to at least 40,000 professional purchasers at the scene over the coming days. And according to organizers, some of them are very big spenders. At least 1,000 of them have annual import volume of over 100 million US dollars. So we'll be expecting a lot of activities and deal signing over the coming days, and it will be a very hectic week in this massive stadium. Back to you.
Thank you very much, our reporter Yang Chengxi in Shanghai. Now, for more insight, we're joined in the studio by Professor Fu Jun from Peking University. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor. So, as our reporter just mentioned, this year's CIIE, China International Import Expo, comes in sync with the 20th anniversary of China's accession into the WTO. But would you say it's a totally different world compared to 20 years ago? We're still in this pandemic, and multilateralism is still challenged by some hostile or at least unfriendly trade policies from particular countries.
I wouldn't say it's a totally different world. We face a lot of challenges, no question of that. And now you notice the word mercantilist state. Well, the other part of the world often use this term to look at China, but the reality is that we want to have two-way trade. We are not just to export our goods overseas. And for this particular forum, to make that point explicit, we also want imports from other countries flow to China. Chinese economy has been growing rapidly over the years, and we contributed in terms of the growth rates of the global economy up to 30%. So looking down the future, well, China is a big country for others to look at, and the numbers that I hear from the reporter does not surprise me. You see, over the years, if you look at the volume of deals in monetary terms has been on the rise. You look at the number of multinational corporations, in spite of the problems and uncertainties associated with COVID-19. has been on the rise.
And now China is aiming at this dual circulation strategy. It means domestic and international circulations go hand in hand, if you will. what role can the Import Expo play in the whole momentum?
Well, that was pretty much in the line of sort of the sketch of the picture I draw for you, dual circulation. To me, this is not something new. Chinese economy has been playing the dual economy. We have growing part of our economy opening closely to the outside world. Well, over years before, because the consumption rate in China was low, so we tend to export more to that. Now, as our economy continue to grow, and the size of middle class continue to grow, and the domestic part, no doubt, will play a growing role in the economy down the road. And this is not only true domestically, but also when you think China is a big integral part of the world economy. So now, we tend to heighten, sort of make that explicit. This is a dual role that China will play years down the road.
Professor, we'll be getting back to you on this. You're watching a special coverage on CGTN on the CIIE in Shanghai. Stay with us.
Hello everyone, welcome to our special coverage. We're coming to you live from our Shanghai studio on the Bund. This year's CIIE brings together nearly 3,000 businesses from around the world. They're from 127 countries and regions. I'm Zhong Shi. The exhibitors will be showcasing their products, everything from pharmaceuticals and medical equipment to high-end consumer goods and automobiles. Of course, stringent pandemic control measures are still in place, with hospitals prepped for any major incidents. This year, the number of foreign companies exhibiting their products will hit another record high. Our reporter Chen Tong shows us what to expect at the CIIE.
November is one of the most exciting times in Shanghai. All types of imported products are here at the annual China International Import Expo.
Virus prevention measures are very strict this year. Participants must upload negative results from nucleic acid tests done within 48 hours to obtain entry into the CIIE grounds. Some 3,000 companies from 127 countries and regions will attend. They include countries participating in China-proposed Belt and Road Initiative, Middle and Eastern European countries and developing economies. To accommodate the new pavilions and more participants, the exhibition area has been expanded by another 6,000 square meters to 366,000 square meters.
Welcome to the Wonderland for foodies. The biggest number of exhibitors this year is here in the food and agriculture section.
It includes some new trends: plant-based meat, organic food, and functional foods. This is the section for medical equipment and healthcare. 350 companies from 33 countries and regions will be bringing their latest products.
And a record number of new medical products will debut at this year's expo. What will be unique this year is the special section for cultural products such as paintings and sculptures, including works from artists like Picasso and Monet. It has been the 4th year since Shanghai held the China International Import Expo. The number of companies and countries attending the expo will hit another record high this year. Being open and going green, these were among the keywords at this year's event.
The vast exhibition of imports will be complemented by forums on climate change, digital economy, and green financing. There will also be a forum on China's 20th anniversary of its accession to the World Trade Organization. Chen Tong, CGTN, Shanghai.
Chinese President Xi Jinping announced plans to hold the Import Expo at a Belt and Road Forum in 2017. Let's now take a quick look at the Expo's objectives and what has been achieved previously.
The Chinese government says the Expo is part of a commitment to trade liberalization and opening the Chinese market to the world. In 2020, as China reigned in the coronavirus, the third CIIE was held and concluded with over $72 billion worth of deals. This was an increase of over 2% from 2019 prior to the pandemic. More than 400 new products, technologies, and services made their debut in China and on the world stage in last year's expo. Nearly 80% of the world's top 500 companies that participated in the 2018 and 2019 expos were present in 2020.
We also asked exhibitors about their thoughts on the Chinese market and what they hope to achieve at this year's China International Import Expo. Take a listen.
Our presence this year will be even stronger because we started with the low profile during the first CIIE. Now, over the years, we have extended the booth presence. We are welcoming more and more stakeholders. We are launching the products for the second time, and we really connected with the consumers live here in China.
So this year we are the first time exhibiting at the CIIE, which is a great achievement for us. We are the first hearing aid company that I understand that are having a booth at CIIE. Our products today, they look like this modern product that appeal to a lot younger audience. China and Germany have the same number of hearing care centers, around 6,000-7,000, but China has 20 times more population, of course. So you see that we actually need to develop the infrastructure for this business a lot in China, and going to events like this is a great platform for us to get access to a broader public and to create more awareness for our products.
This is the fourth time we participate into CIIE. It's a very special event for Roche. In the past 3 events, we exhibit more than 13 products from Roche. In the past few years, most of the product we exhibit at CIIE has already been launched in this market. So this year, we are going to launch a platform tackling with the oncology disease area. We are going to launch it together with many domestic partners. That's why we feel it's so important to leverage this platform.
I'm now joined in the studio by Xue Wei, Managing Director for Northeast Asia of the skincare company Beiersdorf. Ms. Xue, good evening to you and welcome to our studio here on the Bund. I know you're super excited about the expo this year because it will be your company's first time participating. Let's talk about opportunities. What type of opportunities do you think this platform offers?
Thank you. So the China International Import Expo has become a conference to foster openness, strengthen win-win cooperation, and a shared future for international community. And also under the new pattern of a domestic and international circle, the CIIE provide foreign company to introduce new brands, new products, and the most advanced technologies. And also sustainability is one of the most important themes for this year's CIIE. As one of the leading international skincare company, Beiersdorf has been serving Chinese consumers for more than 1 century. So Beiersdorf is actually show our commitment to support China domestic industry development. So after we established the largest innovation center in Shanghai last year, so we will make our CIIE debut this year. So we will show our multi-brands portfolio. Our showcase the most advanced skincare technology, our expert, and also we will show our leadership on sustainability initiatives.
Not too many details, don't reveal too much. I think your consumers will be surprised with your showcasing at the exhibition center. What about consumers? Obviously, we want this to be an educational opportunity for consumers. What do you think they walk away from this expo, especially if they make it to the consumer product section of the expo?
Yeah, China has the second largest skincare market and has the most demanding and sophisticated consumers. It's actually, we plan to bring in more new brands and products with high quality and also innovative products. For example, Nivea will bring in new whitening products, Luminous 630. So this is actually the breakthrough patent ingredients, and it's a clinical proof products with the long-term safe for the brand. So this is a new technology initiative will solve Chinese consumers' skincare problem, and also will bring the skinny devices. So you can do the clinical test at home, and also you can do some VR journeys to see how the active and technologies play on your skin microbiome. So this will set the foundations to build the tailor-made products in the future, in the near future. And also we will have the sustainability, environment-friendly products. For example, natural good lotion, we actually reduce 50% plastic package, and also the clean formula. And at the same time, the cream is actually, we can claim is 100% climate neutral. So this is also a big initiative to bring our daily life. We want to create a better skin, better environment together.
Very important concepts, a lot to look forward to at this expo. Thank you so much for coming in today. We certainly appreciate it. And that does it for us for now from Shanghai. The opening ceremony of the expo will be held very soon. CGTN will bring you live coverage. Please stay tuned. For now, let's hand things back to our headquarters in Beijing. Pandan will pick up our special coverage on the opening ceremony. Pandan, back to you.
Thank you very much, Zhongshi in Shanghai. You're watching CGTN. Stay with us.
You've traveled to places where others couldn't be, seen things others couldn't imagine, and heard stories you can't be sure whether to believe. They say that you're privileged, that people look up to you. But only you know how much effort you've made. You're on the ultimate journey to discover a country with 5,000 years of history and nearly 1.5 billion people. Is it a green countryside or a vast sea of neon lights and skyscrapers? Is it a dangerous land choked with smog or the blue sky of a summer's day? What is this China for you? And what is this China for the rest of the world? CGTN. See the difference.
The world's largest import expo, a catalyst propelling recovery amid pandemic uncertainties. A global stage, showcasing the world's newest products, cutting-edge technologies and latest services. And a mega platform, turbocharging access to China's massive consumer market. Join CGTN at the 4th China International Import Expo in Shanghai, where we show you the hottest consumer trends and pinpoint opportunities for growth.
This is CGTN and a special coverage on the opening of the 4th China International Import Expo in Shanghai. The opening ceremony is about to start very soon, but now let's give you a general idea of the size of the event this year. Nearly 3,000 businesses from 127 countries and regions are taking part in the 4th edition of this massive trading event. They're mainly from 6 industries, including food and agricultural products, automobile and consumer goods. The number of top global companies and corporate giants is also higher. 58 countries and 3 international organizations are setting up special exhibitions. Some countries like Japan, Denmark, Poland and New Zealand have expanded their exhibition areas. This year's expo also includes an online exhibition with virtual reality and 3D modeling technology. A total of 48 countries and 1 international organization are taking part in the online section. Organizers are expecting a record high trading volume this year. Malaysian companies are looking forward to the China International Import Expo despite restrictions from the pandemic. Malaysia has participated since the first edition in 2018, helping open up opportunities across China. Ryan Mauter reports.
Whether they're products made from the pungent durian, or edible bird's nests, or more conventional items, Malaysian food producers see vast potential to tap in China's market. And the China International Import Expo is a key gateway to help reach that goal. The major grouping of Malaysian ethnic Chinese businesses is again helping companies take part in the CIIE.
CIIE is one of SCCM's major international events. For the first CIIE, ACM led an exhibition team of 30 booths with ACM Pavilion. Then at the second CIIE, the number of booths has been increased to 42. This one shows the confidence of our Malaysian exhibitor in this CIIE. It was very successful according to the Malaysian exhibitor.
Until now, most Malaysian companies taking part in the expo have been in the food and beverage and agriculture sectors. This year, Malaysian exhibitors will include companies from the healthcare, medical supplies, biotechnology, electrical and electronics, and consumer goods sectors. This local producer of edible bird nest products will use agents based in China to showcase its products this year, but looks forward to attending again in person in future.
We have participated every time since the first CIIE. It is a very big platform. We can build a diverse group of clients. We've met many clients who agree to buy our products after seeing us participating in the expo each year. We have high expectations for CIIE. It's very helpful.
When all these borders are open, I think we can even get more exhibitors to participate in the CIIE.
Building business ties, forging partnerships, and expanding sales of Malaysia's products in China's vast market. Ryan Meltzer, CGTN, Kuala Lumpur.
Now for more insight, let's cross live to Mr. David Blair, Vice President of the Center for China and Globalization in Beijing, and Professor Fu Jing in our studio. Let me start with you, Mr. Blair. I think it's fair to say that the whole world is still in recovery mode due to the pandemic. Now, as we just reported, the size of this year's CIIE is bigger than the previous 3 editions. Would you say this is the world's, at least the world's companies and manufacturers' vote of confidence into China's potential in the near future?
Well, certainly all these companies see that China's consumer market is growing very rapidly and probably will continue to grow more rapidly than either the United States or Europe. And so it will become very quickly the largest consumer market in the world, particularly because wages are also rising, so people have more income to spend. So I think you're seeing companies, not only is it a vote of confidence, it's a necessary step for them to take to become involved in this market. I think the expo gives them more confidence because, in a way, it's a signal to the world that imports are welcomed into the Chinese market, and also that the Chinese government is taking the necessary steps, the reforms that it has initiated over the last few years and that it will continue to initiate to open up the market to competition from abroad and from around the world.
Professor Fu, opening up to the whole world is a key message that's been reiterated by China's leadership on multiple occasions in the recent decade, it's fair to say. So what would you say are the main features of China's next stage opening up?
Well, opening up can be one way. Now this time the emphasis is a two-way, okay? Export, imports. For some particular countries, China probably maintained a favorable balance of trade. But if you look at the Chinese trade globally, China has more or less maintained a balanced trade. Now the point that I want to make about this particular expo is that now suppose you have a big firm to stage, because you notice the word create awareness. In reality, for a firm to create awareness is so expensive, it's very difficult. Marketing is very expensive. And to me, this expo is a very strong signal on the part of the Chinese government to engage in pro-market approaches. When you have a platform supported by the government, you are talking about a role between state and the market. And everyone is welcome to join. I mean, the firms are welcome to join. Now, this is a very good platform for the firms to expose their products to the Chinese consumers. And I hope it will be very efficacious for those who have joined the first expo and have coming many times. I heard they have expressed this expo is very important for their products. And it's part of the firm's efforts to build an infrastructure, market infrastructure, linking their country to the Chinese market. And looking down the road, what's the prospect of the domestic market here? I also heard the words and the numbers that it seems the market is growing, Now, the numbers are more substantial than sort of just use a rosy picture. The numbers tend to indicate Chinese economy tend to grow in that direction. Pandemic is a constant. Every country is suffering to that. For what I have read, China seems to have the organizational capacity, institutional capacity to have a very robust recovery of the economy. And this expo is also a very strong indication. You look, count the number of firms, count the number of people, and you see the technical ability, the professional, the institutional ability to deal with the potential uncertainties and the dangers we continue to face.
Right, and Mr. Blair, would you say American enterprises, especially those operating in China, share the same feeling?
I think most of them are. Obviously, if they're operating here, they believe there's a big market here. Especially, I see a lot of American everyday consumer products on the shelves here in the stores. It's a very competitive market. Actually, the market here is much more competitive than in the United States. So they may have been used to sort of monopolistic markets in the United States, and they come here and they have to compete very hard. So I think some of them, they're obviously making money, and some of them may lose, but that's the way the market works. I think that's a very good thing. I did want to say that this is a two-way street. Bringing in imports is a very good thing for Chinese people. It gives them more consumer goods, obviously, but it also increases competition within this market, making it even more competitive and forcing domestic firms to upgrade and produce higher quality products. And I think these imports are an important part of the reform process within China itself, in addition to providing an important market for firms from outside the country.
So as you just mentioned, it's a two-way street. So let's put it under the big picture of economic globalization. Would you say multilateralism is under big challenge right now? Do you think the US government is having the same welcoming attitude to imports from China?
No, I don't.
And Mr. Blair, as we're talking about this, we've already seen live picture from Shanghai, and this is the venue, the National Convention and Exhibition Center in Shanghai. The 4th China International Import Expo is about to start very soon. You're watching live footage from Shanghai. This is the venue of the 4th CIIE. Chinese President Xi Jinping is expected to deliver a keynote speech via video link at the opening ceremony. So, Mr. Blair, do continue.
Obviously, China sells many products to the United States. Some of that is re-exported through a very complicated supply chain. So I think the politicians in the United States have exaggerated the importance of Chinese goods to the American market. But the United States still absorbs a lot of Chinese products, largely because many of them we don't have the capability to produce ourselves. One thing that worries me is that the United States has made a lot of bad policy decisions over the last 30 years in particular, and that has led to slow growth rate in wages. We've essentially had zero growth in wages since 1979, and somebody has to be blamed for that. I think the blame falls squarely on policy decisions made by the American government. But of course, for politicians, it'll be a lot more convenient to blame China. So I think that is one of the reasons we're seeing increased protectionism in the United States.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. David Blair, Vice President of the Center for China and Globalization in Beijing. You're watching live footage from Shanghai. This is the National Convention and Exhibition Center, the main venue of the 4th China International Import Expo. The grand opening for the 4th edition of this trading event is about to start very soon.
有请中华人民共和国国务院副总理、第4届中国国际进口博览会组委会主任胡春华主持开幕式。
Chinese Vice Premier Hu Junhua will host the opening ceremony of the 4th CIIE in Shanghai.
尊敬的王岐山副主席
Vice President Wang Qishan, Party Secretary Li Qiang, heads of state and international organizations, diplomatic envoys, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good evening. Welcome to the 4th China International Import Expo and the Hongqiao International Economic Forum. On behalf of the organizing committee, I wish to express heartfelt thanks to the governments of participating countries, international organizations, and friends across sectors for their support, and a hearty welcome to participating guests both online and in person. With the personal dedication and guidance of President Xi Jinping, the CIIE has been successfully held in the past 3 years. It has become a more significant major platform for international procurement, investment promotion, people-to-people exchanges, and open cooperation. It has become an international public good shared by all. President Xi Jinping has given keynote speeches to the past 3 expos, and this year he will deliver an important keynote speech via video links. Tonight, we're honored to be joined by Vice President Wang Qishan of the People's Republic of China, and we're also joined by world leaders who address today's ceremony. They are President Fernandez of Argentina, President Tokayev of Kazakhstan, President Hichilema of Zambia, Prime Minister Zaraki of Italy, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha of Thailand, Acting Prime Minister Seruiratu of Fiji, Secretary General Hongqiao International of the WTO, and Secretary General Greenspan of UNCTAD. 133 guests above ministerial level of 106 countries are attending the opening ceremony online. We're also joined by diplomatic envoys of participating countries, representatives of international organizations to China, leading officials of Chinese provinces and municipalities and ministries, and representatives of multinationals, think tanks, and business associations. There are 143 countries, regions, and international organizations participating in this year's expo. The exhibition area and the number of exhibitors both surpassed those of last year. 58 countries and 3 international organizations sign up for the online country exhibition, and 2,900 exhibitors of 127 countries and regions will join the enterprise exhibition. Over 420 new products, technologies, and services will be displayed at this year's CIIE, and their CIIE exposure for many of them will be their debut in China, Asia, and the whole world. During the CIIE, we'll also hold a high-level session on the 20th anniversary of China's succession to the WTO, themed Mutual Benefit, Shared Future. 12 parallel sessions and over 100 supporting activities will also be held. I hope that you will make full use of the platform to engage in active discussion and achieve more cooperation outcomes. Please join me in a warm round of applause for the keynote speech of President Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China. Excellencies, heads of state and government, Your Excellencies, heads of international organizations, Your Excellencies, heads of delegations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good evening. As the 4th China International Import Expo CIIE opens today, it gives me great pleasure to meet you online in this cloud meeting. At the outset, I would like to extend, on behalf of the government and people of China, and also in my own name, a hearty welcome to our distinguished guests and warm greetings and best wishes to our friends, old and new. China is a firm believer in honoring its word with actions. The measures I announced at the 3rd CIIE for further opening up have mostly been implemented. The negative list for cross-border trading services at the Hainan Freight Trade Port has been introduced. Reform and innovation for pilot freight trade zones are making steady progress. Foreign investment access continues to expand. Business environment continues to improve. Negotiations on the China-EU Comprehensive Agreement on Investment have been concluded, and China is among the first to have completed domestic ratification of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP). China has overcome the impact of COVID-19 to achieve innovative growth in foreign trade. As the only major economy to register positive growth of trading goods last year, China has made important contributions to keeping global industrial supply chains stable and boosting world economic recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, as we speak, the world is experiencing the combined impacts of major changes and a pandemic both unseen in a century. Unilateralism and protectionism are on the rise, and economic globalization is facing headwinds. Studies show a steady decline of the World Openness Index over the past decade and a weakening of global consensus on opening up, which are causes for great concern. For a boat to sail upstream, it has to forge ahead or be driven backward. We must stay on top of the prevailing trend of economic globalization and support countries around the world in opening up wider while rejecting unilateralism and protectionism. This is significantly important if we are to take humanity to a better future. Opening up is the hallmark of contemporary China. This year marks the 20th anniversary of China's accession to the World Trade Organization (WTO). Over the last 2 decades, China has fully delivered on its accession commitments. Its overall tariff rate has been cut from 15.3% to 7.4%, lower than the 9.8% accession commitment. The central government has reviewed and revised over 2,300 pieces of laws and regulations, and local governments over 190,000 pieces, which all helped to unleash market and social vitality. Since the start of COVID-19, China has provided to the international community some 350 billion masks, over 4 billion protective suits, over 6 billion testing kits, and over 1.6 billion doses of vaccines. China has actively promoted international cooperation against the pandemic and supported waiving intellectual property rights on vaccines for developing countries. These are the concrete actions China has taken to honor commitments and fulfill responsibilities. Over the last 20 years, China's economic size has grown from the 6th to the 2nd largest in the world, trading goods from the 6th to the 1st, and trade in services from the 11th to the 2nd. China has led developing countries in utilized foreign investment, and its outbound direct investment ODI has risen from the 26th to the 1st. The past 20 years have witnessed a China deepening reform and pursuing all-round opening up, a China seizing opportunities and rising to challenges, and a China stepping up to its responsibilities and benefiting the whole world. Since joining the WTO, China has kept opening wider to the world, thus generating a new wave of domestic development while injecting fresh impetus into the world economy. China's development and progress since its WTO accession 20 years ago is the result of much hard work and great tenacity of the Chinese people under the strong leadership of the Communist Party of China. It is also the result of China's proactive steps to strengthen international cooperation and pursue win-win cooperation. On this occasion, I wish to express my heartfelt thanks to all Chinese and foreign friends from different social sectors for taking part in and witnessing this historic process and for supporting China's opening up and development endeavor. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, ancient Chinese observed, one can tell the inside of a thing by observing its outside and see the future development by reviewing the past. For any country or nation to thrive, it must follow the logic of history and develop in line with the trend of the times. As for China, we'll not change our resolve to open wider at a high standard, will not change our determination to share development opportunities with the rest of the world, and will not change our commitment to build an economic globalization that is more open, inclusive, balanced, and beneficial for all. First, China will firmly safeguard true multilateralism. The multilateral trading regime with the WTO at its core is the cornerstone of international trade. Right now, the multilateral trading regime faces challenges. China supports the WTO reform in moving in the right direction. We support the inclusive development of the multilateral trading regime, as well as the legitimate rights and interests of developing members. China will take an active and open attitude in negotiations on issues such as the digital economy, trade and the environment, industrial subsidies, and state-owned enterprises. Uphold the position of the multilateral trading regime as the main channel for international rules setting and safeguard the stability of global industrial and supply chains. Second, China will firmly share market opportunities with the rest of the world. China has a population of over 1.4 billion and a middle-income group of more than 400 million people. Our annual import in goods and services is valued at around $2.5 trillion. All this offers an enormous market. Going forward, China will lay more emphasis on expanding import and pursue balanced development of trade. China will open more demonstration zones for creative promotion of import trade, optimize the catalog of retail imports while cross-border e-commerce, encourage the on-site processing of imported goods from trading between border residents, and increase imports from neighboring countries. China will better integrate its domestic and foreign trade, speed up the development of international consumption center cities, promote Silk Road e-commerce, build modern logistics systems, and shore up the capacity of cross-border logistics. Third, China will firmly promote high-standard opening up. China will further shorten the negative list for foreign investment and expand the opening of telecommunication, healthcare, and other services in an orderly fashion. China will revise and enlarge the encouraged industry catalog to guide more foreign investment toward sectors such as advanced manufacturing, modern services, high and new technology, energy conservation, and environmental protection, and toward the Central, Western, and northeastern regions. China will conduct stress tests for high standard opening up in pilot free trade zones and the Hainan Free Trade Port, and will release a negative list for cross-border trading services in the pilot free trade zones. China will deeply engage in international cooperation on green and low-carbon development and the digital economy, and work actively for joining the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership CPTPP and the Digital Economy Partnership Agreement DEPA. Fourth, China will firmly uphold the common interests of the world. China will take an active part in cooperation within the United Nations, the WTO, the G20, APEC, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and other institutions, and promote more discussions on such issues as trade and investment, the digital economy, and green and low-carbon development. China will support the fair distribution of and unimpeded trade in vaccines and other key medical supplies across the world. China will promote high-quality Belt and Road cooperation so that more countries and peoples will benefit from its development opportunities and real outcomes. China will actively join in global efforts to tackle climate change and safeguard food and energy security, and provide more assistance to fellow developing countries within the framework of South-South cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, as a Chinese proverb reads, the going may be tough when one walks alone, but it gets easier when people walk together. As the pandemic continues to wreak havoc and the global economy faces a bumpy recovery, it is all the more imperative that people around the world pull together to tide over this difficult time. China stands ready to work with all countries to build an open world economy so that the spring breeze of openness will bring warmth to all parts of the world. Thank you.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has just delivered a keynote speech at the opening of the 4th China International Import Expo in Shanghai. And for more insight, let's talk to Professor Fu Jun in our studio. So, Professor, Chinese President Xi Jinping has just made a 4-point proposal to China's next stage opening up. So let's start with the first, Professor Fu. Multilateralism, firm support on multilateralism. President Xi Jinping mentioned some challenges to the multilateral trading system right now, and also he has expressed a firm support to the reform of the World Trade Organization. Now, what's the key challenges right now, and what's the China approach you've been observed?
Well, the principal message that I get from the speech is in spite of COVID-19, in spite of signs of unilateralism, since China has benefited hugely from a global system which by itself is multilateral, and China want to continue in that direction, and China, more important than that, China want to share the fruits of that approach with the global system. And the approach down the road is China will gradually and at a higher level to further its own economy. And there you are looking at a step-by-step way. Now, to follow the practice of a Chinese reform process, what China did in the past is when China is determined to move in that direction, China will start to experiment with pilots, and the president was talking about the pilot projects, and once you see it's working, and will scale up very rapidly. And also talk about the 1.4 billion people and also a sizable middle class. So it seems to me it's not just words, and also plans and actions to follow.
Right, now let's talk to Mr. David Blair, Vice President of CCG. Now, Mr. Blair, you earlier mentioned, in our earlier discussion, you mentioned the potential of China's massive consumers market, which is the largest in the world by size. But what about its potential? Because President Xi Jinping also vowed that China will share market opportunities with the whole world. What exact opportunities is he talking about?
Well, the main phrase that I heard many times throughout his speech was the term opening up, which is also tied in with China's reform process. So opening up China's markets is welcome to every country because it's a big market. It's many consumers, and the important thing there is the consumers are becoming richer. And as they become richer, as wages go up, people can spend more. So that's obviously a big welcome thing for every country and every company. It's also important for China's continued process of reform, because this kind of inflow of goods makes more wealth available for Chinese citizens. It's also critical to the reform process because it's a remarkable way of squashing vested interests that might not want to have reform. And as we've seen throughout China's development, the reform and the opening up have gone together. So what I heard from President Xi is that he's going to continue reforms and he's going to continue opening up. And I think that's a very good message for China and also for the rest of the world.
And talking about frequent words, we also heard about this particular term, digital economy, in President Xi Jinping's keynote speech a lot. Tell us more about this digital economy and its potential for major economies.
I'm a big fan of digital e-commerce. One thing that I've seen in China is that rural areas in particular, people far out away from the big cities and in formerly poor cities, are finding ways to get their goods to market through e-commerce, whereas previously they had to go through 5 or 10 layers of middlemen who would take all the profits. That's creating huge opportunities throughout China. I think this is unique in the world. Part of that is that the Chinese government has invested a lot in the kinds of infrastructure, both in roads and railroads and in 4G that's essential to make that work. And also, as we've seen recently, China's government is much better at ensuring competition in the digital sector than we are, for example, in the United States. There's a lot more antitrust enforcement and ensuring that the benefits typically go to the people rather than to a tiny monopolistic market like we're seeing in the US. So I think the e-commerce market in China is a remarkable part of the anti-poverty program, and also as it ties in with opening up, because as those people in the countryside get richer, they're going to buy both domestic and foreign goods. Also, we're starting to see that e-commerce market go cross-border. So we're seeing the opportunity of foreign producers, small producers selling directly into the Chinese market, and Chinese small producers selling directly into foreign markets. I think this is a historic change in the way markets work, and it's a worldwide opening up to more competition and also to many more players, especially small players, in many more markets.
And talking about digital economy, Professor Fu, China is applying for joining the digital economy partnership agreement, or DEPA, and let's remember that RCEP is about to take effect very soon. How does that will lead to China's high quality opening up, as President Xi Jinping mentioned in his keynote speech?
This to me is all part and parcel of a grand vision. If you look at the Chinese reform process, market-oriented opening up process, it's a gradual process of industrialization, starting with the labor-intensive, capital-intensive, now increasingly knowledge-intensive. Parallel to that process, if you look at our integration with the world economy and our relation with the regional economic trade regimes, the president talked about regional comprehensive economic partnership. That part was, to me, represents one stage of development. It's ASEAN-driven plus China, South Korea, Japan, New Zealand, and Australia. But it's sort of a Asian, but Asian, of course, at the time represents part of the global system. And China also plans to apply for comprehensive, progressive, trans-Pacific partnership. And that probably is guided by Japan. Japan, of course, represents a higher end economy, and that has more to do with the reform of the institutions and things. This is more sophisticated, and ultimately it's digital. So to me, it's all part and parcel of a grand vision. And China, to me, the Expo show and with all these things, China is not just looking at one thing. These are indications that to me that China wants to continue to involve itself with the global economy now and down into the future.
Thank you very much, Professor Fu Jing and Mr. David Blair there. And that's it for this special coverage on the opening of the 4th China International Import Expo in Shanghai. And of course, CGTN will keep you updated on more details of this massive trading event as it unfolds. And in Beijing, we end this special program with the aerial footage of Shanghai, the city that hosts the CIIE. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.